Bradley, stop messing around. Put on your professional podcast hat. We only got one shot to get this right. I have no idea what I'm doing. Shit. I wonder what this button does. That was pretty cool. Got any more buttons? Audio's recording.
Sorry, Zoom does not like my nice webcam, so it's using my laptop's webcam. So I apologize for the low quality.
Oh, you can change that.
From the one side, it's highlighting your dimple.
Yeah, it's my good side.
Yeah.
Okay, hold on. All right. Let me get my height already here. Last time I did this with Josh, I had the camera. I put the camera up on a brick because I thought they wanted a long shot, but then that looked like it was in a basement or something. You know?
Yeah. So somebody released a tweet today that said we think that they're going to do 2 more secret episodes.
On
Expedition Unknown.
I haven't heard anything.
Yeah.
Whether he bring me in or not, I don't know. You know, it's whatever I think serves a story that they're trying to write. I think we had a great time. He did so many things in such a short time for that Brooklyn episode where they presented the award to Jason. Jason was his name?
Yeah, Jason Krupat.
Yeah, who won who didn't win, but who discovered the Boston treasure. And I mean, he flew them from Boston then, and then he went to New York. You know, I was coming in, and the other 2 guys from Cleveland were
Brian and Andy.
Brian and Andy, and then they brought the other 2 guys in from Chicago. So that was a pretty cool production that they were able to do and photograph it there. We had to be very careful at the Historical Society there because I left like a camera bag on a table and it had leather on it, so they were concerned that my camera bag didn't damage the leather tabletop there. I mean, everything was like antique and old. Really, it was like something that I kept in Nemo's library.
But that was like the perfect finale to that whole series. Like, first episode's just an introduction to the hunt. Second episode, you try to find a cask and you can't. Third episode, you find a cask, so you get the Chicago guys, the Cleveland guys, Sandy, the kids, you all together to meet up.
Yeah, I think it was fine. The thing I found just kind of funny is how what was his name again?
Krupat.
Jason's,
yeah.
Right? Krupat was kind of, I don't want to say he was lecturing Josh, but he was telling him, he was saying, people are just overthinking this thing. And then I point out how it spells Boston across the bottom of the page, and it's like, see, maybe even overthought that part a little bit too much. So it was a neat episode. And I think what I liked about it is that, as I mentioned, I don't know where the treasures are or where they're buried, except for Cleveland. I knew where Cleveland's was, and that was it. That's the only one I'll admit to. But that when Jason was going over some of the clues, it ignited some of my memories of these packets of info that Byron would send to me. And so when you see that cover and you see the those things hanging, I forget there is a name for them, the panels of fabric that are hanging off her sleeves, the shapes in there are the shapes of the flags on Old Ironside that's across the bay from the from that ball field. And I had mentioned, as I mentioned to other people in the past, that mentioned this to Josh about, somewhere in some construction site, some guy's going to run across one of these and not know what he has. But thank God Jason beat him to it, and it couldn't have been the timing on that. I mean, it does read kind of like a movie and stuff. So it was pretty exciting, I thought, but it was kind of an interesting thing with all the symbolism that was involved and how they walked through the parks there, and I'm trying to think where else. And the arc of the hair did mimic the what do you call it, the
baseball diamond.
Yeah, the baseball diamond. And I'm trying to think what else that they had there. They had the sculpture against the building too, and kind of Byron was notorious for doing that. He picked those words off that building. And what people have to remember, while I can't really aid them in their treasure hunts directly because of legal reasons, you have to think like Byron, how he had to bury them. He had to be, and Jason may mention this about he had to be in and out very quickly. He had to be able to go in a clandestine type fashion and dig a hole very quickly and put the treasure box in there.
Now, you were with him, right, when he was burying the cask in Cleveland in the Greek Cultural Gardens. Was that kind of like what it was like? He just ran in, dug a hole, and then he was out super quick?
What I remember about the Cleveland treasure, he was very quick. And I was operating as lookout. And when I went back there to see where he had buried it, I could not tell where he buried it. And he had just dug that hole. There was not even any fresh, darker dirt because of the moisture from him digging down. It was just like nothing had happened.
Wow.
And it was pretty magical. And I mean, this was done in a different time. I'm sure, like, you have to, I don't want people damaging places, digging up things without permission. I mean, in some areas, if you look cross-eyed at a tree, they're going to arrest you, So I think those were different times when Byron was burying these treasures. And when you think about it, things were much more lax there, even though there was an environmental movement and there weren't as many as, protect our parks kind of ordinances and rules and laws. We could hitchhike around the country back then, and you could kind of camp out along a river and nobody would really kind of say anything, and
like that's a good point though. It was a much different time back then. Everything was a lot safer. People didn't really pay as much attention in the parks. Now, like what searchers are running into is, say you live in New York and you want to solve the puzzle in San Francisco. Yeah, you fly over there, but how do you get tools? Like, how do you take a 6-foot shovel through TSA? Like, how did Byron do that?
A lot of times he flew to some places and he had this little shovel with him. And sometimes it was a larger shovel. Sometimes it was a little military shovel. I'm sure the Boy Scouts know that type of shovel. So
yeah, Sandy told a story about that. Like after their first date, he pulled out this little foldable shovel and went out and buried a cask.
It's funny too because I remember when he first started seeing her, I didn't realize that I was hanging out with Byron about the same time that he met Sandy. And so I would stay at his apartment there. And sometimes I had use of his apartment when he was away, which was great because it was almost like having my own apartment in New York. I used to pretend it was mine. But he would call if we were there together. I was down on the couch and we would go out to dinner and stuff and get back. And I think it was around 12 at night, he'd call Sandy, who was a publicist for Bantam Books at the time, I think. And she was working out of the West Coast office in San Francisco. So he was calling her religiously every night, like at 12 o'clock at night. I'd go out on his balcony and have a smoke and stuff. I didn't want to overhear what they were talking about because he was so gracious to let me stay at his place there. But those were the good old times. It was New York was interesting. It was it was taxi driver New York with all the steam coming up. The steam still comes up out of the pipes there, but there was a certain danger and rawness to New York City at that time. It was very colorful. Very you always see something interesting happening on the streets there. So every once in a while, when I post something, I want to thank you guys too, George, Ward, and my son Kit for being the surrogates for my Facebook page that I don't really. I can see what everybody else sees, but they post my things and sometimes relay messages and things. And I hope I haven't got it.
You're very welcome. So, John, one of the biggest questions that searchers have right now, everybody sort of wants a copy of this book. They want a copy of the first edition book because the pictures are vivid. It's really valuable. It's kind of rare. But I found
two more of them at my house, by the way. And the Japanese edition. I found my Japanese edition finally.
Well, you can sell them if you want to influx of cash because they're kind of expensive.
I'm holding on to. I don't have much left, from these times. I'm still trying to find the preliminary drawings. Anyway, so go ahead. Your question was.
So what the thing that people can get their hands on, anybody can go to Barnes & Noble and buy one of these like $15 reprint copies of the books from iBooks. But the biggest question that everybody has is, can you use those? Like, can you see everything in the images that you need to see to solve the puzzle?
I would always say high res is better. higher resolution is better. If the printing is not up to snuff, or if they're printed on an inferior stock, it may impinge on some of the visual, those maybe some of the tinier ones. So unless they up the paper stock in that version, now, I've never seen one, so I can't really make an accurate assessment.
I should
You know,
have sent you
of
one.
that. Oh no, that's okay. That's okay.
Don't want to give that man any money, huh? I
Yeah,
feel the same way.
I get enough things in by some of the people who are still don't believe I don't know where the treasures are. They somehow are still don't believe me, so they send me their solutions. I just got a FedEx the other week, and say this poor guy has like spent money on a FedEx delivery, and I'm like, dude, I don't know where they are. You know, you're better off contacting John Colby at, I think it's Brick Tower Press over there in the Hamptons. So anyway, I think all I can say in a general statement, the higher resolution, the better.
Okay.
Sometimes it seems like there's some pretty good scans online, you know, and most books, magazines, if they're high res, they're only printed to a maximum of 300 DPI, 350 DPI for actual physical print, and that's even back then on the stock that we use, and we did use a coated stock on the inside of the book. The cover too was a little discouraging because that cover is so big that I painted all these details in there, and when they put it even on the cover, which is one of the larger reproductions of the book, is the cover. Some things really shrunk down. All the little reflections and the iris of the eyes has disappeared, and the tear ducts and things like that aren't shown. That's why when Josh sees the thing, he said they're so much sharper and different in real life, is because I would always kind of go beyond what the printing was then and even now. And I also worked larger. Usually you try to work towards what size reproduction it's going to ultimately end up being. But I have this view of, like, I sell to collectors that collect my work, and some of my paintings are good enough to, not that I'd put them over a fireplace mantle, but they're fireplace mantle worthy as far as size, or God forbid if they match their couch or something like that, the back of their couch. But so yeah, some of them have more detail than even we were able to capture in them, but the crucial things were there.
Okay.
So I think, like I said, I can't comment on the new version. It seems like people on Amazon are complaining about it from some of the comments that I hear from some of the buyers, the purchasers of that book. And that's one of their main complaints, that some of the mechanical production pages are kind of offset within the book, and that the reproductions aren't quite up to snuff, that they need to be a little bit better. So, but that's what I've heard. I haven't seen.
They're literally, the easiest way to explain them to you is they seem like they're scanned on a regular scanner and then printed out on a laser printer. Like they're dark and muddy.
Yeah, it's very dark.
Yeah.
And I don't know if they're taking them down to local Kinko's or not.
So another thing that irritates new searchers is we often refer to these paintings by city. So if we're talking about painting number 1, we refer to it as the San Francisco painting. And that irritates people because some people think that's in like Peoria or wherever. Yeah. Are we able to name any of them? I know we've got Castle Hat, we've got Medieval Scarecrow, but are there names for any of the others?
No, I never really titled them, and I always thought that's up to the people seeking the treasure. I mean, whatever what am I trying to say? Not outline. Whatever legend you're trying to use for your own treasure solve is up to you. I noticed a lot of them, like you said, are being identified by city, but I've gotten some things of people that have sent me, or they've mailed them to me. The common knowledge of what city that may be, sometimes it's a different city.
Yeah.
And they think it's a different city, and they're entitled to that. I mean, that's the whole thing here of activating people's brains and researching, history and whatever it takes to get there. And they're entitled to their own opinion, Yeah.
So I guess the next question, I guess the biggest question is, are the cities that are commonly accepted correct? We've tried to work this out for a while. We know that that Byron confirmed New York had a cask. He confirmed Houston had a cask. Sean Kelly confirmed Montreal had a cask. Sandy confirmed it on a video that's on YouTube. She confirmed San Francisco, and you confirmed Milwaukee. The only cities that are left are Charleston, Roanoke, New Orleans, and St. Augustine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Are any of those correct?
I don't know.
Okay.
I think they are. I think they are. I mean, I'm trying to remember. We have the. I think they are. I think they are. They have a couple of the things that I have seen people post online. They seem to be going in the right direction for the right cities for the right image. Some of them are very obvious.
Yeah.
Others aren't, but they're pretty much, people have been working on this for a number of decades now. So I think they've discerned the general geographical location.
Nice. Okay. Well, that's super helpful.
Yeah.
It's interesting because it took so long to do that. It
really?
Yeah, it really wasn't.
It would be like,
no, it was it's like 2000. Was it 5? I think it was 2005 when Robert Fox found the latitude and longitude coordinates in paintings.
Yeah.
And that was when like everything just sort of changed for The Secret. We all of a sudden knew.
Really?
Yeah.
When was it? When did this happen?
2005. I think it was 2005. It was after they found Cleveland.
Right. Okay.
He found the latitude and longitude coordinates, which looking back on it is the simplest thing. It's like, why didn't I think of that? And then once that happened, we knew what cities went with which paintings, but we didn't know which verses went,
Right.
Which leads me to the next question is that seems like a simple thing. And if we can't even figure that out, are we doing this puzzle wrong? I don't know. Have we sort of brute forced ourselves into the middle of the puzzle and skipped something?
I mentioned, I don't know if I mentioned this to Josh. I've talked to a few people on this. Here's something that's going to bake your noodle, as the Oracle would say, is that the first painting and the last painting are arches, and they're both coastal paintings.
Yeah, there's a lot of little similarities.
Does that mean that these paintings go in a chronological order from west to east or east to west, or do you do west to east and then east to west back and then somehow do some other kind of flip thing, so
so I mentioned we do meetups in different suspected cities with the community, and it's a lot of fun. And during our San Francisco meetup, we had a conversation about the moons in the background of the painting, and the fact that there's 11 moons, and this is your first painting. And my interpretation of that, which is probably way off base, it's just my interpretation of the art, was that these 11 moons are the other 11 worlds that you're going to go to throughout your journey in The Secret.
I remember. I know. Are they different phases? That's another thing. I was trying to think.
Yeah.
Okay.
But that was kind of my interpretation of it. I enjoy thinking of it that way.
Yeah.
I feel like John's just gonna have fun going, I don't know, man. I don't know.
Well, I can't. There's that sense of mystery.
Of course. The puzzle would honestly be ruined for everybody if it was just given away. So we don't want that.
I can't remember some of the stuff that Byron and I talked. We worked on this thing. I was still a senior at Columbus College of Art and Design, and I started the first initial paintings. I think it may have been the one with the dragon on her robe. I'm not going to say any locations. And I think Castle Hat was in there, was kind of second. I had then moved. I went back. I went with my tail between my legs back to my parents' house, set up my studio in the front living room, and started to complete the series in there. So we had worked, Byron and I had worked on this for so long and had discussed so many different angles. And in fact, I think I was still working on stuff while he was burying these things. And he'd call back, and I think he would have an idea on something, and then I'd say, hey, Byron, what about this? And he'd say, go with that. And he'd say, I'll send you, a packet in the mail, and I'd get some photos. And he said, put this in, put that in, but do this. and I'd try a few things to disguise things, and then we would go from there, you know. And I can say that part. And we just went on for a year. I remember flying into New York a couple of times, and we had a good time. We had a meeting with the writers, and with Joe Ellen was there, and John Perard, and Sean Kelly and Ted Mann.
Yep.
And those guys were funny because one of them had just come off the movie, I think, Animal House, or was starting it, and another guy was working for National Lampoon. So, you know, there was always some good one-liners there and that. And so I forget what your question was. I'm starting to get off on a tangent here. I'm kind of going back in my memory to us sitting in these restaurants on the corner, some corner restaurant on the east side, you know.
Honestly, forget my question. I'd rather hear this story.
Eating food and talking about
100%.
stuff. And then a lot of what Byron and I did, the other people would be they were working on their part of the book. So Byron would work with them, and then he would come to me, and then we would work together privately, even from Overton or Perard or Lloyd Overton. I forget who else was in there. He did some good work.
So it seems like from all the people that we've talked to about this book, and I think you've said something similar, it seems like Byron treated this sort of like the U.S. government treated the SR-71 Blackbird, where everybody sort of knew their part. Yeah.
Yeah, well, they didn't know what their part was. They knew they were building a part. They didn't know what it was for. I always have this feeling, and this is just my own curiosity, that somehow the front part of the book is tied in with the treasure part. It seems like there's, like, when you look at the book, there's two parts. You have your field guide to the fair people and the contemporary versions, like the Tupper Werewolf or the Maitre Demon, and typographical terrors. This is when we had typewriters and not computers. That's how old it is. And but there was something about that. And I remember bringing up, I said, Byron, why don't we just discard this other stuff and just let's do a treasure book. Let's make it more elaborate. Let's make it more like Kit Williams' Masquerade, which was one of the inspirations for The Secret. And he said, no, this has got to be in there. We have to do this part. So now, whether the book company was saying, look, it's got to be more than just this little 12-page thing, you know, it's got to be bigger. So he came up with this, brought Ted Mann in and the writers in, and Byron is kind of this conduit, publisher that coordinated, like herding cats, I guess you could say, in a way. And then we had this other part of the book. But I always thought somehow how he wrote these things and some of the names on this and how he worked with these guys, if he somehow has hidden something in there. I mean, this is going to be another thing, bake your noodles, that maybe there's some code in the actual writing after he edited it, like the first letter of every third word, done, some kind of like, enigma, code machine type thing going on. So that was one of my getting back to the SR-71, but he would only give me certain parts. He knew the whole thing. And everybody knows the story of the SR-71 was each manufacturer got a different part. They even created a company to buy titanium from the Russians, who they ultimately ended up using the plane to spy on. So, that they used for the hull on that. But it was kind of like that. So like I tell people, I don't know where they are. Cleveland was the only one. Like I said, I acted as lookout. I didn't even know what side he buried it under. I mean, when Andy and the other guy's name? Andy?
Brian
found it. They went to the one side and then they went to the other side. I didn't even know what side he buried it on when he buried it at the time. So he was very crafty.
Yes, it seems so. Yeah, it's
so
we've often pointed out it's kind of weird that book, the back part of the book, is not written like a regular book. It's instead of one page, there's two columns of text on each page, which is odd. Like no other book's really written like that. Mm-hmm. So there has to be some sort of reason.
You're right, there is, isn't there?
Yeah.
There's not like just like paragraph. It's two
columns.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, the formatting is very unique.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now you have to talk to Alex J, the designer, about that.
Yeah, Alex says he doesn't remember.
Alex, I think Alex is a Mason or something like that. He's put some things in it. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh God, you're gonna get us in trouble.
Talking about clues being possibly in other places, during your interview with Josh Gates recently, you talked about your artwork with all of the trees and the box and kind of you're in the background.
Oh,
And that's really sparked a fire in the community, talking about all of your works and where there are
yeah.
clues hidden to the secret and everything. So, if you wouldn't mind expounding upon that comment from the
Well,
show and maybe helping us.
I have to think about that. It's very interesting. That's stupid. No, I think okay. I've paid homage to Byron in subsequent work. Some of my paintings are, I guess you could say, are autobiographical. Uh, they're then time. I do hide things in them repeatedly. I sometimes even swear at people in them, and some of the small highlights in them, or give people the finger, or say I hi. And there's different things that are actually written in there, but there are also other visual and illusionistic symbols that are in the images. I remember. How can I say this? Right about the time I was working, finishing up with The Secret, I started working for Time Life Books, and we worked on a series of books called The Enchanted World. I worked on about 10 of the 16 volumes. And so they're books on dragons and ghosts and night creatures and wizards and witches, I think was the first book. And one of the books was Mythical Beasts was one of them. And it was did a painting of a minotaur, which coincidentally, which I thought Josh would bring this up, the image I did of the minotaur appeared in the movie, the second Bill and Ted movie.
Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey.
Yeah.
And it's in the seance scene. And if you look in the seance scene, and she opens up the page book, there's this horned figure in there. And it's actually a minotaur, but they took it as a demon. And so it's in black and white on the page of this magical book. And Bill and Ted are like circling the table, and they have his mom or something has read this book for the seance, or whatever that is. And in the nose of that minotaur, when I did this for Time Life book, I put a uterus with fallopian tubes, an egg in there. And I told them after the fact, I told the art director, publisher, everybody, and they were like, "Are you kidding?" And they were like, and then it's like the thing you can't unsee once you see it. So subsequently, I started hiding things, and then I did a book of dragons. And on the back of the anatomy of the dragon, on the back, I put a lady part. And they didn't see it at first until I pointed it out. And then, of course, they can't unsee it. So, and they still continue to hire me. So it was funny because then I would start hiding stuff in. And this is kind of an offshoot of the things I used to do early on, in high school. And there was a book called Sexual Sublimation in Advertising or something like that. Some guy had these really far out theories that every advertisement you see had hidden genitals and all kinds of stuff in it and everything. And so I read that in high school. I was like, I think he's stretching it in this one, but you'd look in the bubbles of a pint of beer or something, and there would be some weird symbols or something in there. And sometimes the guy really stretched it, but with that, and just I've always liked symbolic paintings. The paintings of Hieronymus Bosch and Bruegel, and a few other Da Vinci, or not Da Vinci, but Salvador Dali was another very early influence in his way of doing illusionistic things. So, for example, like the hallucinogenic Toreador, where you can see a man's face in the Venus de Milo's body, and so all these things kind of combined. And I think when Byron and I first met, I had won the top student award at the Society of Illustrators student competition in New York, got a scholarship to Paris, France, and to study at the Illustrators Workshop there. But Byron had seen my work, and I think that put him on to some of the symbolic thing for The Secret, because he saw that I had some kind of symbols and things in there and hid things hidden, and he picked up on it. He's a pretty smart guy. He can really kind of zone in on something. And I've actually signed my first job with him, a contract there. I met with him in New York before I flew on to Paris, France that year. And so I was off on running with him. But yeah, so getting back to your symbolic thing, yes, there's many symbols hidden in my stuff, and some of them may relate to The Secret. Some of them may not. Some of them are personal autobiographical. You can, in fact, if you even look at the long, they're called when they panel the art on the H.P. Lovecraft pieces. There's plenty of things that are in there. Some of them are personal. Some of them are to do with the stories. A lot of those that was in the anthology of H.P. Lovecraft's work. So if you look at those covers, some of those are symbols from the stories, but some of them are. Some of my things, the Muse and Reverie cover for Charles DeLint, that's directly kind of related to The Secret a little bit, I could say. The little box there and the little figure there, kind of going off. And I'm trying to think if there's any shovel in there. I don't think there's a shovel in that one. So, but I have to still keep the mystery going. I think, Einstein said the most beautiful thing we can experience is the mysterious. And I think it's true. There's something that tickles your brain, or you see something that, that you can't quite see just yet, but it gets your curiosity up, and the pursuit of the solution is sometimes an extremely beautiful thing to do and to experience. So
I really appreciate you expounding upon that. You mentioned a little bit earlier that somebody sent you a FedEx box and that you receive all sorts of things in the mail.
FedEx letter, overnight kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah. So why don't we touch on maybe crazy people or people that are overly enthusiastic contacting you and sending you things? And
I don't know. I wouldn't call them crazy. I think some of them are maybe frustrated. I don't know. My understanding is that the new version of the book has a form in back to send your solve in it, and that's John Colby's responsibility to respond to those. And I don't know if he only responds to the positive ones, and maybe nobody has solved anything. I don't know where that goes. They send me stuff, and I don't know how I can help them legally. Since the property of the book has been purchased by another business entity, the contracts, intellectual property, everything involved with this book is under Brick Tower Press and John Colby's umbrella, since he purchased Byron's properties after his untimely death. And so I can't really say anything. So when people send me, I've had them call my house. I've had them send me packets in the mail. You can find out where anybody lives nowadays, I guess, on the net. I don't know how to respond to them. At first, I could respectfully call them and stuff, and some of them don't believe me. They think I'm lying. I think too, because I'm kind of dangling things in front of people's faces as far as some of the clues and the symbol stuff and everything. But that keeps it interesting, I think. And I think you always have to keep hope alive. And I think, but some of these people have to realize that I can't help them both legally, and I just don't know where the treasures are. I mean, I've said that repeatedly. I can remember, like, when I talk about Jason Krupat and the Boston treasure that was solved. When he started mentioning some of those things, I remember, I can go back to a few fragments of conversations I had with Byron, or a packet that he sent me. I remember now the photo of like old Ironside and stuff. And I remember telling him, Byron, I can't put this boat in. If I put it in, if people are going to know right away what we're talking about, So I said, how about this? So I put in the sigils. How do you say that? Sigils? Sigils, yeah. Yeah, and that were the little pinafores or whatever the tiny flags are, and still make it look like some type of Celtic design. And work it in with the spelling of Boston also. There was a number of things where clues and things are blended that I had completely forgotten about, and it was very, like I said, it was very fluid. He was off doing his thing. We were talking, I was singing, I was sending him work. He was burying treasures. There was a lot of stuff going on. And on top of it, it was, 40 plus years ago. I challenge anybody to remember all these little kind of intimate details of how you've done something, from more than 40 years ago. I can remember big things about certain things, but like I said, I remember the one time I was burning clues in my kitchen in Columbus before I moved that home, and I remember almost getting sick to my stomach because I had so much smoke in the apartment and in my kitchen because I had a steel bucket there. I was burning these things in, and I actually got like nauseous. And thank God nobody called the police or the fire department, because there was a lot of smoke coming out of my kitchen window, and we didn't have fire. This is before smoke detectors, so that was one episode where with those clues being burnt, my memories went out with a lot of those too. So
I like to tell people this. You and I, we don't talk often, but we talk a decent amount. I live in St. Augustine. There's a cask in St. Augustine, and that cask is not on my mantle. If you won't give me a clue, I don't know that you're going to give random other people a clue. So, like, I don't know.
Yeah. I can't do that. I mean, I think...
Well, it would ruin the puzzle. I mean, like, what's the point of a puzzle?
Even Josh asked me, and I was jerking around with Josh, and then he sent me that beautiful shot of he and his sound man in his... I don't know if you saw that on the thing.
Yeah.
I have the uncensored shot, but I came up with some clues for him, and I just, I did a rhyme, and he was like going with it. And I like, oh shit, I better stop this because I'm gonna. And sure enough, I got that picture back with his sound man Mike and Brian, his the camera guy, and they're a great group of people though. I mean, when they were here at the studio, they're just very professional. We had a good time. I'm on maybe a minute and a half on that first episode, and I'm trying to think. It's like they were here for like 6 hours. We had coffee and donuts, and we were hanging out, and had a good time. Popcorn, I forget what else we had. But
he seems like a good dude.
Well, my neighbors didn't know what the heck was going on because it's like I had a panel box truck, and there was a van, and all these people piled. There were 2 producers standing outside the studio, dark coats on. They look like FBI agents or CIA. I think they probably thought, yeah, that guy finally got busted. He's probably got a grow operation in that building out there in back. Because they were just legalized. In fact, I just got contacted. I have to respond to them. I got contacted by a medical grow operation here in Ohio. They want me to come up, maybe work, collaborate with them on some kind of corporate identity thing and stuff. And it's probably from seeing the work of The Secret, because they did a review of this book at the Toronto Star when it first came out up in Toronto, and the guy likened my work to head shop art. So I can see that. It's a fair assessment,
It would need to be in crushed velvet and blacklight responsive.
Yeah, right. Yeah. If you could put one of these paintings on crushed velvet, that'd be great. That's the prints you should sell.
With the blacklight,
blacklight colors. Do you have a favorite of these paintings? I know you've said that they're your earlier work and they're not your favorite paintings that you've ever done, overall. But out of the 12, do you have a favorite?
Favorite.
Yeah.
Gosh, I do like the castle hat painting.
Well, you've used that on T-shirts and promos, and so
I should give any one of those. Those were put on a T-shirt. I was artist guest of honor at
Balticon.
Was it Balticon that was on? Yeah, because I did another one in NorwestCon. They used another one from another one of the Strange but True Tales book. Those were put on there. They were trying to think what else. They were on buttons too, I think.
No.
In fact, I gave. I was a little sad, but I gave a secret button to Josh Gates after we did our thing in Boston. I wanted to have a little special remembrance of it, and it was a button that Byron had gave me. But I realized Byron gave me 2, so I just found another one.
Yes.
Oh, nice.
I have one, and Josh Gates has one, and he had handed these out when I think the book was done. But while we were working on it too, we had a top secret stamp that said The Secret. So every time I did something, whether it was a drawing or at the back of the painting, it stamped it with this rubber stamp that said The Secret. So everything had a stamp on it, and it was kind of a cool thing. I think I got off the track here again, guys.
No, it's okay.
Were you saying that you still have that stamp?
Yeah.
I can't. It's got to be around somewhere. I know I didn't get rid of it. I know I didn't.
The reason we ask you is because we recently came into possession of a piece of memorabilia that has that stamp on it, and we're trying to have the stamp reproduced just so we can have fun with it.
Yeah.
As a piece of memory for it. But
we had one made, but it's a little different.
It came out horribly wrong.
Ours was, I don't know. Look, it was New Times Roman or something like that.
Yeah, it's that simple script.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing special about it.
It's printed really well. I mean, I sometimes a couple, I would test it out and stuff, and a lot of times near the end it was just like, hey, put some ink on this and pop, 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 and hit it like 2 or 3 times on the back of the painting or the drawing, whatever it was, and it became part of that whole thing.
It irritates stamp makers because it's in reverse. Right, it's just a big blob of ink, and they're like, etching this is going to be a pain in the ass, and they can't.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't know. I can see. I don't know where mine is. I have to look for it. I know I didn't throw it out. I did find the one button though, which I was happy because I wanted Josh to have it because I think it's just the promotion and being able to keep what Byron did.
Yeah.
A lot, and how the community, like we've talked about how it's brought people together and relationships and maybe even marriages and friendships and things like that, and I think that's a cool part of this whole thing. As long as you don't damage anything, and like I said, get permission to dig if you have to.
Yeah.
You do have a good location.
So
yeah, George and I are a prime example of the friendship illustration you were just speaking of.
Yeah,
that's how we ended up meeting, and we've become very good friends since.
At 2:00 in the morning, in the middle of Fort Raleigh National Park. And then me and Rachel, we've decided that we can't wait for a cask anymore. I don't know if I told you that, Bradley. We're gonna get married sometime next year, the end of next year.
Oh wow, that's exciting.
Yeah, I can't do it. And I was talking to John about something too. Like, if I find a cask, everybody's just gonna say I cheated. So it's like I can't really even dig anymore. So
He's now been tainted.
Yeah.
You're tainted. Yes.
So next year we're gonna get married. We're gonna make John come though. You're gonna have to fly down. You're gonna have to come to Florida.
Wait till this pandemic thing is going. It's been.
Oh yeah.
Depends when it is too, because I hopefully have I'm supposed to be teaching at a university on the East Coast here in the fall. I'm going to be a visiting artist there. So.
Well, speaking of that, your number one fan, Linda Spalding, whom I know you know that name.
Yeah, I've heard that name before.
She asked if you have any you have any traveling shows, or you're gonna have your paintings traveling around anytime in the near future.
Right now I have to, like I said, I may have a solo show here in 2022 on the East Coast, but I'm going to hold off on that just to make sure everything goes right here, because things are so tentative with the universities and teaching and how they're setting things up. It looks like things are going to get close back to normal by the time fall rolls around.
Yeah,
if everybody gets their vaccines, and we'll still be walking around like a bunch of outlaws with masks on and stuff, but I think they'll be more relaxed until they get down to a certain case count. I think in Ohio here, they want to lift all restrictions once we get down to so many cases per 100,000 people. If we get below a certain amount, then they probably think they got it on the run. But now they're talking about the new variants, but who's to say? People say things all the time, and even though a lot of people have passed away because of this, we're still behind where they said we would be.
Yeah. You've often told me that Byron's goal in writing this was that he wanted to write it in a way that a handicapped person in a library could solve the book and could find the treasures. And even in the back of the book, the form kind of insinuates that should be the case, that someone without going to any of these cities should be able to figure out the exact dig spot and then explain it in a way that fits, in a paragraph. But the thing that we've never been able to figure out is what age group he was looking at. Was he targeting children? Did he think children could sit in a library and figure this out, or was it more geared towards adults? Do you know what age group Byron had in mind when he was writing this book, or what age group it was marketed towards?
It's funny because usually when you do a book proposal, and Byron was called a book packager. He was the kind of central hub to coordinate authors and writers, and he would work with Arthur C. Clarke or Ray Bradbury, but he'd bring in an illustrator and get everybody to work together. And usually when you do that, you have a target audience that you're trying to direct that book toward. But this I think I think it was a little bit older audience, maybe mid-teens and up. And if you notice, the first treasure was found by some young teenage boys. But it also speaks to a little bit older crowd because, I mean, when you have a character called the Tupper Werewolf, I think a housewife could, at the time, without sounding sexist or anything, could identify with that. Or a typographical terror. And I'm trying to think, record collectors. We try to hit on everybody in that field guide section of the book. And I think it was anybody from, like I said, teens and probably young adult and up that would be a fan of the book. I think he saw the appeal of Kit Williams' Masquerade book, and that went over from little kids all the way. In fact, some of the illustrations are very colorful and almost like children's book type illustrations anyway. So that book appealed to a vast variety of people. But I come to think of it, we never really talked about what the target audience was. It was all about constructing these paintings, at least from my point of view, and working with these clues and how diabolical we could be as far as how clever and how we could change it up so that one solve would not, a treasure would be solved in exactly the same way as another, even though there was a framework there, maybe.
Would the seasoned artist, the now John Palencar, if you had to do this again, what would you have done differently if the seasoned artist did it rather than the young John Palencar?
I would have spent more time on some of the covers and put more in there. I think I would have we would have needed a little bit more time too, I think, to really make them even deeper, both the verses and the clues. Now by that I mean, maybe more resolution on the clues that would take a person step by step, and maybe by the solving of one clue would lead on to another clue. And that's kind of what has happened in an indirect way. I mean, Andy and what's his name again?
Brian.
Andy and Brian's in. I know they're.
Andy's going to get a kick out of this because everybody remembers Andy.
Met them. They're
nobody
nice guys.
remembers
We were staying at the same hotel there in New York before we went over to Brooklyn, and it was like we could have dinner together. And they didn't let us know we were there together. We could have a great time. I ate alone. I ate like really hot Szechuan or hot Japanese. Anyway, what was your question again? You were talking about.
What would you do differently?
I would have done even more complex paintings, and would have egged Byron on to do even more detailed verses so that they were just more detailed. So things that would maybe have also been, which I can't. Maybe meant some misdirection in there, or a misdirection with a good reflection that got you off into another area. And like I said, that did happen with Andy and Brian. You had it took the internet to solve that, actually, believe it or not. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if people know the story behind that, but by them typing in the words for the one verse, it pointed them to the general area, and then things started to fall into place. And so even then, after all those years, and they were how many years after that it took the internet and a vast amount of knowledge to kind of pin that down, what those words actually meant. So, and I didn't even know that. See, Byron was looking around. I didn't even see him looking at that stuff when he was writing it down. It was like he had that little book of his, like the Indiana Jones book with the little rubber band strap around it, and little notes in there and little diagrams and stuff. And
I hate the fact that it's been 40 years, these are unsolved, and your response to that question was, I would make him harder.
Yeah. By making him harder, you make him easier one way, It's like, who knows where Byron's book is, I don't know. What is this?
Yeah.
So Bradley,
you're diabolical, youngster. You're
Bradley, we're going to be breaking into John's house soon.
It is not Byron's book. It is not Byron. Okay.
So the inside joke that George was touching on earlier was you might say that Andy is more charismatic than Brian, so everybody remembers Andy's name and not so much Brian's. but Brian was the one that was really into the puzzle, and
Yeah.
Andy was just kind of tagging along as a
Andy
good
was just
friend.
there.
It's like Andy, what was it? Not Summers. What was Andy's last name?
Abrams.
Abrams.
Abrams. Okay, yeah. But I remember Zim because the Invader Zim.
Yes, nice.
The cartoon. That's why I remember Brian.
I love that John Palencar just referenced my favorite comic artist,
Johann
Johann Vasquez. I love.
Yeah.
He did this thing called Johnny the Homicidal Maniac before Invader Zim. It was hilarious.
I didn't know that. I'm looking at some questions here too. There were a couple of questions about, like, you touched on becoming human because of the there was a guy who was talking about the human geometries and such, because he does chainsaw carving. And some people know how I do that, because I work from imagination, from life, and from my own photo reference. I work from anything that I can get that I have control of from the start. So if I have a model come over, I can do drawings from life, and then I can take photos and work from both and have the model come back over. Now it's a little bit different though with the COVID stuff, but
Bradley, John can read the Facebook page.
Yeah, that's what.
No, I'm right now. I copied and pasted these in there from last time.
Oh.
These are hidden clues and other paintings. Yeah, she called it Night Walk. Yeah, that was the one I showed. That was Muse and Reverie by Charles DeLynn. There are many things hidden in these paintings, so it just whether they apply to the secret or not is up to your interpretation.
Kit told a really nice story about that painting. He said it was odd because it was such a beautiful painting, but he didn't think it had ever been shown, or maybe it was only shown once or twice. He said it just hung at the top of your staircase.
No, actually, it was shown at the Society of Illustrators in New York, and it actually won an award called the Hamilton King Award, which is they say it's for the best illustration done by a member of the Society of Illustrators for that year.
Yeah.
So a nice big medal and a big lucite block and stuff. It's presented at the. They only give out one a year, and I'm in with a really good group of illustrators, and it's presented at the President's Dinner, where they have the Hall of Fame inductees. You have people like Norman Rockwell in there, and N.C. Wyeth, and Maxwell Parrish, J.C. Leindecker. I can go through a whole list of Harvey Dunn and Parker and Mark English and Bob Peake, Bertie Fuchs. A lot of these people were some of the people I actually studied with in Paris, France. But yeah, it was a very kind of a special thing. So it hangs off. It's only been, I think it was in the Canton Museum of Art show, I think, that you guys went to.
No.
I don't remember seeing that there.
Oh, okay. No, that one, then it was at this site. It's been shown at a couple of conventions, I think. I don't think it's been at any art school. So I've done some exhibitions at some art schools and universities too. So.
He just figured it was very personal. He said you paint a lot of things and then you hang them up and they're personal and no one ever sees them.
Yeah, that's right now until, I get like a venue to show them. And then I do the Canton thing, and they picked what they wanted to show at that. And they bought one of them for their permanent collection there. And
what'd they buy?
They bought. They got for their acquisition. They got it was one of the 3 covers for I'm trying to think. Cherry Priest was the author. They were it was about ghosts of the Old South, actually.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It was called Not Flesh Nor Feathers, and it was. I'm trying to think. So that one's got some symbols in it too.
Is it on display there now?
They bring it out every once in a while. They brought it out. Every once in a while they do what they show works from their permanent collection. So they bring it out there. It was brought out in the last one, and it was at the show. It was one of 3 covers at the show at Canton when you guys were there. But they bring it out occasionally. Hopefully they hang it right next to their Andrew Wyeth and Jamie Wyeth at the museum by the Andy Warhol, the Andys.
Speaking about award-winning art and shows, unless I'm wrong, I think the last exhibition of your watercolor painting that's going to be in it's the American Watercolor Society, their 153rd International exhibit, and it's in Martinsville, Virginia, starting March 12th through May 1st, unless that has changed.
Yeah, I think that I heard different things. They're still advertising the show that it's during. I heard that some of the other venues canceled, but then I heard that because of the pandemic. But it seems like it's moving through. I felt very honored and privileged, especially too winning the gold medal in that show and being it's the first time I ever entered the American Watercolor Society, and they're a heck of a organization. They've been around for, as you mentioned, 153 years. This show has been going on, and they've shown work by I think Andrew Wyeth and Winslow Homer, John Singer Sargent, and it's a very respectable. Some of the new maybe modern crowd would think it's kind of old hat and nothing but full of a bunch of Sunday painters, but I can assure you it's not. There's some very accomplished artists in there. My high school art teacher is a distinguished fellow of the American Watercolor Society, and my good friend Dean Mitchell is also on the board of directors there, I think, and a distinguished fellow. Or I think he's they call it the Dolphin Award, Dolphin Fellow, Dolphins of water, I guess. So both those guys are. My high school art teacher and a good friend from college are both in there too. I didn't even know it at the time. They weren't on the jury, so there's nothing to rate or anything like that. So if anybody think that it's like George finding the treasure or something, it's not like that. So
I hate the fact that I'm essentially disbarred from this now.
Yes,
wow.
you've been castrated. I'm sorry. I don't know how else to say that. Your treasure gonads are floating off in the air, buddy.
Your probe has been removed.
Drats. That's all right.
Oh, really? I mean, because that's what it'd be. Because somebody would see that and say, he talks to Palencar. Palencar, get him on the clues.
I got one dig left. I started it a little while back, and I didn't get it complete, and I'm going to finish that because I have documents that I've been doing it for 2 years. Hopefully we find something. It's my last shot.
Well, you have to get somebody else to get up there.
Yeah. Well, I got a team. All right.
Well, do we have any questions?
I have 2 more that I would like to touch on.
But, edit all this stuff out about the soundtrack stuff.
Oh no, I'm leaving it all in.
Leaving
every bit of it. That's all.
In case, because we spent too much time on it.
Well, my questions are kind of intertwined. So for those of us that are big fans of your work, John, the only opportunities we really have right now to buy your work and have it in our home is either going out and finding the book that you did the work for and buying the book, or in one case, we found that you did artwork for a video game.
Oh, jeez.
And so we go out and buy the video game.
I can't believe on that. Oh my gosh. I don't even have a copy of that. I don't think I have a high res JPEG of it from the art director there. I think Vin Diesel owns that painting too, I think.
Nice.
So my questions were going to be just as far as video game goes is, have you done artwork for any other video game?
No, there's so many good people out there doing it. A lot of them are doing it digitally, and it translates all really well to the covers. A few of my friends been doing some, but I haven't done many. I think the last one I did was that Riddick thing, but then before that, there was I did like a mahjong game, and it was done for Electronic Arts, and that whole thing is kind of weird. How I know a number of art directors that are involved in that business. One of them actually bought a painting when I was a guest visiting artist at the Laguna College of Art and Design, and he works for was it Red Star Games or something like that, or so.
I think I just found your mahjong game.
I'm about to say it should be difficult for us to locate that.
It's got like it looks like it's got like a dragon and a bird.
Yeah. Oh God. How
wow.
do you find stuff? Yuck.
I have to buy a mahjong game now.
Same here. I just bought Dragon World, the old Commodore game. John Perard did the art for that. So.
It's funny. I saw the guy working on it. It's very crude. And Byron was really, there's another thing with Byron. He was always reading. If we went to the Friars Club, which he was a member of, and we would go there and go up to the Buddy Howe Health Club on the 5th floor. And women are only allowed up to the 3rd floor or 2nd floor or something. Because there are a bunch of naked old guys walking around on the 5th floor, getting, doing a steam or getting rubbed down, or they're working out in the weight room.
Spend dry you.
I don't know how I got on this. Byron was always reading. How did I get the fuck? Sorry. How did I get
No, it's okay.
It's fine. It's fine.
God, I'm like
Yeah,
traveling.
dry you story.
What now? Oh, Perard. Oh, on Dragon World.
Yeah.
How did I get from Dragon World up to the Buddy How Health Club?
Well, you just want to talk about Sven, and it's fine.
Yeah, I dry you now.
Oh, God. No, I don't want to tell the Spence story. He was a very nice. He was a very nice guy, though. He's very, very respectful.
Very thorough. Very thorough.
Yeah. He, yeah. No, but Sven always made sure you had your fruit juice in the sauna. I give you juice.
I tried to get Perard to talk about that, to talk about making the digital art back in the 80s, and he wouldn't.
That's what I was saying. When I went to Byron, we would go there, but when before we would go to the Friars Club, I don't know how I got there. I go to his office, and a lot of times I would check in because sometimes I'm seeing other publishers while I'm in New York, and I'm staying in this place. We're working together, but then I'm off other places. Sometimes I go to the museum or whatever, and so we would. But I dropped by his office to check in, and he had this guy in a back room. He was a young guy, and he was writing code. And I remember I said, look, this is how much I got so far, and it'd be like a kind of really pixelated dragon flying around with like a really pixelated bolt of lightning coming down or something like that. And I'm like, oh wow, that's really neat, you know.
It's a great game.
We were still in the age of Pong.
It
wasn't even Full Metal Gear or Metal Jacket or anything like that. It was like pre this, you know. Byron was. That's what I want to say, because he was always reading at the Friars Cup. He was always ahead of the curve, and when he was doing these games, he was ahead of the curve on that. A lot of people weren't doing it. He did Fahrenheit 451, I think, with Ray Bradbury, and he did the Dragon World, his own book.
He did Treasure Island.
And this guy designed these games in a little back office, working on a Mac computer, you know, an early Mac, you know.
And we recoded all of those games, and you can play them on our website, for God's sake.
Yep. Oh, they're so much fun.
Every single one of them.
Really? So, I mean, he was ahead of, so he was doing that. And he got into the dinosaur thing. And I think that inspired Spielberg to do the Jurassic Park movies, because Byron said this book is a really neat look at dinosaurs. We're going to reveal all this new information about them. And he was really happy because he got, 3 spreads in Life magazine. You have to understand Life magazine was the place to be, a huge magazine. So that when you opened up a spread in it, you had 20 inches of, you in front of whoever was looking at the magazine. I think he had 3 spreads in there. William Stout was the artist that worked on that book. Byron was on the morning show with, Gene Shalit, who used to be a film critic at the time at NBC or ABC, I can't remember. So he was getting a lot of press with this book. So he was always, and then, Spielberg years later does this Jurassic Park thing. And he was always ahead of the curve. So you got on this, you're talking about the video games, and he was always reading, and that's when he would do a lot of his reading on the bike back to the Friars Club on the Buddy How Health Club on the 5th floor.
So I guess final question, then we'll let John go get
work.
Go work.
You organize my studio.
Well, you said you don't have a copy of this. Would you like me to send you a copy?
No, that's okay. That's okay.
I don't mind at all.
Anyway,
I would love some opportunity to give back.
I don't have any game consoles here. My sons have all the game consoles. They have whatever the latest Sony is. They have that. They have them hooked up. They play online. They got their headsets on. They swear at each other. They're.
Oh yeah, this is one thing that your son Kit and I have in common, very much so, is the video game franchise Doom.
Oh yeah.
I have a huge collection of Doom memorabilia, and him and I send each other things pretty regularly.
That's a nice cabinet you got back there too. I can only see a little bit. I see bobblehead. You got a bobbleheads in there too.
Oh yeah, there's a couple.
Okay.
Yeah, but George, you were mentioning you had a final question.
I did play Doom. I did make it to the end of Doom, and the only reason why I played it because we were in between homes, and we were renting a home, and so we had satellite TV where we were, and the unit that we got from Dish unit had a built-in Doom game in it. Doom was on in the unit, so we could play it. And I played it all the way to the end. I saw the bloody rabbit or whatever the heck was at the end.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And I really got, and we played it on a small wireless keyboard that came with the it substituted for a regular remote control that came with the dish unit. And so you could use the different arrows and stuff. It wasn't even a game, whatever you call it, controller.
That's awesome.
Wow.
So it was, and then I get too obsessive about stuff. It's like I am with my art. I can keep on working, or my music, I can be down there for 7 or 8 hours, and my wife's like, "Are you coming up yet?" It's like, "No, I'm working down here," And so if I'm in the studio, I'm the same way, and I will be the same with. I played Dr. Mario. I don't know how many levels I got in that, or the Tetris. They forget it, It's like I get the OCD clicked on there, and I get blinders on, and I will conquer something or I will work on something until I can master it and conquer it. So, but yeah, that's why I don't get anywhere near any of that.
Fair enough.
Video game stuff. I think it's a real distraction with the young people today, and I think they should quit it. I think they should get
I don't qualify as young anymore, so I'm okay with that.
Yeah, I'm good.
Yeah, but I'm not into that. I would obsess too much about it. I'm into the music thing. I'm kind of a technology whore. I really like that stuff, and when it deals with music, and it's funny because in my art I'm all traditional, and in my music I'm all digital. It's kind of, that's where I am more with the technology. In art, I still think we can painting, right? The old way is kind of, my students just call me Obi-John Kenobi because I talk about the old ways. So I still think there's something honorable and something kind of primordial about working traditionally in the arts, with paint and canvas or panel or paper and watercolor, that can't be replaced by some of these digital artists working on the screen. What they're doing is beautiful, the special effects and the art that they can do. But I think some of them are missing out now by getting so much into the digital realm through the games and through the art that there's that they're missing. They're missing activating a different part of their brain than what's being activated by the technology. So.
My last question. It's It might not even make the cut. I don't exactly know how to ask it. The secret kind of accomplished something that art generally doesn't accomplish. Generally, when you experience art, you experience it in a 2D way. You look at it in a book, or you look at a painting and you appreciate it. You appreciate the way it makes you feel. You sort of take the story that the artist wants to give you. But the secret you experience in the real world. You take the secret and you go out to different parks. You experience adventures with your family, things like that. It just makes people experience the art in a different way. I was curious if you thought of that when you were creating The Secret, and now as sort of a seasoned artist, how does that make you feel that your art sends people out to experience the world that way?
Oh, geez, I don't know. When I was working on it, I didn't think of any of that at the time. It was just like trying to do something cool, something that was a little mischievous, and just try to, clever, and trying to do a good piece of art. And they kind of vary in quality. That's why if I had a chance to do it again, I'd approach them with a little bit more of spending a little more time on them. As far as now, it's like, in one way, it's like, this is back 40 years from now. I'm on to other things here. So I feel in one way this is kind of pulling me back, but I can appreciate what it's done for some people. Where it's maybe frustrated some people. It's created friendships like with you guys, and I think that's a good part. People have learned a little bit about history. Jason Krupat lost 40 pounds. I got to get on his program because I'm kind of middle-aged and kind of sat too long at the easel, I guess you could say. And so, it is neat to know that people have learned a little bit, have gotten friendships, and it astounds me that here I am talking about one of the earliest projects I ever worked on that has garnered this much attention. When I think about it, I had worked through, I worked for American Greetings at age 19, and I worked there, and they bought some of even my high school work for their corporate collection. And then, I freelanced for the studio there in art school. You know, I did stuff for Procter and Gamble and NCR and Huffy Bikes and things like that, and a number of other major commercial, very kind of commercial, the ugly underbelly of commercial art, I like to call it. And then my first really kind of more artistic stuff that I got through New York, Byron was the first person to ever contact me out of New York. And we worked on the Distant Stars project. And then The Secret was the second project we worked on. And then I had already started doing stuff out of New York. So it's in one way amazing to me that something I did that long ago has kind of come back to haunt me, I guess. But it's also gratifying to see people engaged in the pursuit of treasures or using their brains and trying to figure this stuff out. And along the way, you know, having good friendships and relationships and going out to good dinners and experiencing some of these places, aside from just looking for the treasures, you know, that there's a whole nother series of orbits that are around the core of this, of the books. So.
All right. Well, we appreciate your time. I don't want to hold you up anymore unless there's anything you want to say to the secret community.
No, just
stop calling me.
These treasures, get permission. Don't dig without permission. I do not know the treasures. Do not send me any more things, please. Just, you know, and hunt safely. Have a good time. Don't be evil. Be good. Be kind. Be excellent to each other, man. Oh, look at that! You got the St. Augustine one. I mean, you have the.
Yeah.
He does, yeah.
So there is one thing, Bradley. This is going to be fun. There's one thing we like to do to our podcast guests.
What?
Bradley and I are in a position where the community likes to come to us for advice, and we've been in this a lot, so we know a lot of things. So we like to give our podcast guests a chance off air, not recorded, to ask us one question that we will answer honestly. So do you have any question about the secret that you would like to ask us?
Me?
Yeah.
It's hilarious because it's you.
I don't know what. Who is? Why haven't you guys found one yet?
We're morons.
I'm not smart enough. It's as simple as that. I couldn't see a home plate that was in front of my eyes for years. That's why.
I've lived in St. Augustine my entire life, and I don't even know where to start this puzzle.
I forgot that. I even forgot about. See, I forgot that the sleeve thing, and I remember I think Byron saying, "Do that." I'm like, "Where?" He goes, "That'll work." I said, "You think here?" And he goes, "That works." So the home plate on the sleeve, and I see it's like one of those. It was very fluid, back and forth and stuff like that, you know. So, but if Byron and I were doing it this time, we would definitely use the internet.
Yeah,
the internet would be part of it. In fact, he would probably hire a couple digital guys along with somebody like me that do print, and within the printed paintings there would be some kind of clue to go to a URL that would then open up to additional clues that might take you back to the book or to somewhere else that you would find something, you know. That could be really cool. Too bad, you know. It's like, anyway.
But yeah, to answer your question, we love this thing. We've been working, like I said, I've lived in this city my entire life. I don't even know where to start. Like I have a secret tattoo. I have no idea where to start. Like I'm just an idiot when it comes to this puzzle.
No, I don't think you are. I think you're smarter than you think, or that you're letting on to me to be. But
well, that's a nice compliment. Thank you. It hasn't helped me find a cast though. I still can't solve this puzzle. And thanks for taking time out of your day to do this interview. I know you're a busy man, and hopefully you had a good time. I know we enjoyed it, and hopefully everybody out there watching enjoyed it. Maybe we got some questions answered for you. Helped you sort of narrow down your solutions or your ideas. Hopefully it helped out a little bit. If you wouldn't mind, throw a comment down below. Subscribe to the videos. We don't post stuff often on Facebook or on YouTube, but when we do, it's usually pretty cool. So hit the subscribe button if you want. Check out the rest of our videos. Whatever you'd like to do. Bradley, hit a button. Play us out. Jeez, man. We gotta get you some cooler buttons.